kind of making a lot of gay jokes and like trying to normalize all of these gay jokes. But Hugh Jackman has been plagued with rumors of homosexuality throughout his entire career. So back to Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds. They're in this bromance at the time that he separates from his wife, and you just wonder.
When Candace Owens revealed his brothers, Ryan Reynolds went completely bonkers. Yes, I also didn't anticipate it.
Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Hefner have a relationship or something.
Reynolds and Hugh Jackman were supposedly having a nice relationship, and his wife was cool with it.
Anyways, people really began upping the questioning of his sexuality after he played this really flamboyant character in the Broadway play.
In any case, once he portrayed this extremely flamboyant character in the Broadway play, people really started to doubt his sexuality. Now that Candace is showing the receipts, it seems like the entire tale has been turned upside down, and perhaps Blake's relationship with Baldoni makes much more sense.
That happened to Justin Baldoni, whether or not he wants to admit that or sees that.
And Hugh Jackman's involvement in Blake Lively's lawsuit brought the full truth to light. Else, this entire twisted mess would have remained hidden.
We are learning that Hugh Jackman, Wolverine, will be deposed. And I suspect that might be making Ryan Reynolds extremely nervous, and I'll tell you why.
That's why I'm saying that Candace Owens' shocking revelation that Hugh Jackman will be formally deposed in the lawsuit caused everyone to pause and abruptly turn what they believed to be true upside down.
They went back and they did some filming after the SAG-AFTRA strike, and somebody had admitted that they had done all of that dog pool filming. I said dog poo.
Since Jackman has been standing shoulder to shoulder with Ryan Reynolds the entire time, particularly during the production of it, and that's when things start to become strange.
I'm trying to replace Ryan as a husband and me as his best mate. Holy shit. What the hell are you doing messing with my best buddy's wife?
Consider it. Although Jackman wasn't involved in the ending with us, he was not just present during production, but also had a close relationship with the folks in charge.
Hugh Jackman was also in the now infamously cringe It Ends With Us promotional skit that had nothing to do with promoting the movie, which was about domestic violence, where Ryan directed it and he brought in his mom and Blake was in the background. We learned that.
Candace directly addresses Jackman's part in the now famous advertising farce, which Ryan Reynolds directed and which was so cringeworthy and strange that it resembled a high school bullying session on steroids.
Hugh Hefner then appeared at the It Ends With Us premiere. Again, not his movie. Kind of weird that he's hitting the red carpet with them. He obviously knows what is going on. What would that conversation have been on the way to the premiere?
Reynolds created everything. Blake Lively appeared in the background, and Jackman played himself. But not just himself. He played the version of himself that makes fun of Justin Baldwin directly. The entire skit was about humiliation, plain and simple, and had nothing to do with the movie's plot.
So he was one of the unnamed dragons, if you will, in all of this. And it looks like for that, he is being awarded for his contributions with a deposition.
Yet Jackson didn't stop there. Despite having no part in the movie other than helping a friend, he walked the red carpet at the premiere grinning for the cameras like he belonged. Actions that indicate someone much more interested in the background.
Hugh Jackman is going to be deposed before the trial because Baldoni's legal team wants to get the full scope of Reynolds' conduct.
Owens simply states the truth about it. A member of Ryan Reynolds' bullying squad was Hugh Jackman. Wolverine is no longer the good guy. Instead, he is just another member of the Hollywood elite who is assisting in removing someone from the game. This is the amiable, charming persona that Jackman has been fostering for years. Owens rips the mask off entirely.
I have a lot of questions about Ryan Reynolds' bromances, his various bromances over the years. We've talked about him and Jake Gyllenhaal, and obviously this has been a bromance that has been very much thrown in the public's face.
However, Owens' connection to Ryan Reynolds' overall personality, particularly his fixation with these well-reported romances, makes this even more bizarre. This isn't an isolated incident. Owens is reversing the trend. Ryan Reynolds exposes his friendships as if he were doing public relations.
Ryan's kind of perpetually highly publicizing his bromances is something that I find to be quite strange, right? Mostly because he's a 48-year-old man Ryan Reynolds. He has 4 kids, and he seems to dedicate a lot of time and resources, like financial resources.
In the case of Hugh Jackman and Jake Gyllenhaal in particular, every gesture, joke, and social media post is a part of this massive show to persuade the world that his bromance are normal and wholesome.
Guys can hang out with one another, but he feels like he has to make that effort. So he's like, nothing's weird here, nothing's weird. Bromances are so normal. I mean, notoriously, that's the reason why he flew out Liz playing.
However, why use such drastic measures to promote something that ought to be natural? Few people ever ask why Ryan Reynolds spends so much time, money, and effort persuading everyone that his friendships are normal and fine. This isn't just a casual, oh look, 2 guys are friends kind of thing, as Owens points out.
Justin Baldoni's podcast partner flew her all the way over, presumably to the UK, to provide her expert testimony as to why bromances are like totally chill.
Moreover, there is the Liz Plank case. Reynolds actually flew her out to testify in Baldwin's documentary. Her main goal was to sit there and tell the audience that relationships are utterly casual, laid back, and unimportant. Owens emphasizes the desperation of such action.
Of the word bromance is just, it's a platonic relationship between 2 men. There's no female equivalent to the term bromance. The female equivalent is friends. And so the fact that we need a term to describe 2 men going out to dinner.
Who makes the effort to hire an expert to persuade the world that your male friendships are platonic. That's not typical behavior. It's the cries of someone attempting to hide, divert attention from, or distract from something they don't want people to pay too much attention to.
So bromance is almost this permission for men to connect and to show love to each other because it's like a joke.
At that moment, the friendships no longer appear to be friendships. Instead, they resemble a smokescreen. Owens alludes to something far more profound, perhaps insecurities or personal hardships, but undoubtedly something Reynolds doesn't want made public because it becomes apparent that you're hiding behind something when you're so intent on over-explaining it.
So I'll ask the question, who out there needed that to be explained to them? Like, who needed to be needed this justification paid for to bring in an expert to tell you that guys can go out to dinner and it's totally chill?
And you know what's even more astounding?
He recently divorced his wife of 27 years. Her name is Deborah Lee Furness.
Hugh Jackson and Deborah Lee Furness announced their divorce in a stunning way. Yes, they were divorcing over 27 years after getting married. There was a narrative twist here. These 2 had been the ideal couple for almost 30 years before they suddenly dropped the news.
He and his wife are separating. Now, factually speaking, no judgment from me, but Hugh Jackman has been plagued with rumors of homosexuality throughout his entire career. It has been speculated.
They claim that we have been fortunate to spend nearly 30 years as husband and wife in a beautiful, devoted marriage that sounded like a fairy tale. Well, it turns out that their journey was changing, and they're taking a break for personal development. Of course, we are all just expected to accept that since we are blind. Isn't that right?
27 years is a very long time to be married. They announced their separation to the public in September of 2023. Now, just to plot that on a timeline for you, that was in the midst of the principal filming for Deadpool and Wolverine.
However, the timing of their breakup wasn't entirely coincidental, which is where it gets even more interesting. This information was released while Jackman was well into Deadpool and Wolverine filming, and rumors began to circulate that the strain of working on such large-scale projects may have contributed to the split.
Just never really bought into him at the peak of his career, having married a woman that was 13 years his senior. Some might say, oh, that's ageist. People thought this is quite strange. He was 28 years old when they got married. She was 41 years old. So many people were saying right off the bat, no. This guy is using her as a beard, which is the term that people use when you're in like one of these cover marriages.
Then there is the entire Sutton Foster controversy. Jackman has been connected to his Broadway co-star from 2021, The Music Man. They were spotted together in January 2020, and now there are a ton of rumors on the internet that they are more than just co-workers. But Pman insists that everything is just professional. Oh, and don't forget that people began making connections about this alleged romance around the time his marriage was disintegrating because it was a little too convenient.
Anyways, people really began upping the questioning of his sexuality after he played this really flamboyant character in the Broadway play.
And let's add more fuel to the flames now. The absence of a prenuptial agreement between Jackman and Furness is true. They didn't have one. After almost 30 years, you would think that a couple worth an estimated $250 million would have had their financial affairs in order, but they didn't. So now that they are parting ways, they must divide everything equally, which isn't exactly a smooth ride, especially since they didn't bother with any previous arrangements.
Hugh Jackman opted to kiss his male co-star throughout this production, even though in the original screenplay there was no kiss between the male stars.
Hey, hold on. There's more the fact that Jackman married a woman 13 years older than him and acted in parts involving same-sex encounters has always raised questions about his sexual orientation.
It's like, it's a lie. It's just the bottom line, so it's just offensive. If he was gay, fine, he would say he's gay. It has gotten so out of whack that they say it's stupid.
Jackson has consistently denied these rumors, but the timing of his breakup and his newfound intimacy with Foster have sparked new rumors. Is Jackman simply a misunderstood individual, or is there more to the story that no one is discussing? The public's fascination with his sexuality isn't going away anytime soon, especially now that he's going through a highly public split.
Anyway, so back to Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds. They're in this bromance at the time that he separates from his wife, and you just wonder if that's also partially the reason why Blake's team is adamant that they need this AEO determination.
Blake Lively is creating news of her own while all of this is going on in Jackman's life across town. In December 2024, Lively sued Justin Baldwini, alleging sexual harassment and retaliation. Naturally, Baldoni didn't take this lying down. He filed a countersuit against her, accusing her of extortion and slander, and all of a sudden, what was meant to be a personal disagreement descended into a full-fledged court drama.
They want the judge to agree to an attorney's eyes only designation.
This is when things start to get interesting. Lively's legal team was attempting to conceal some very private information, particularly texts between Lively, her husband Ryan Reynolds, and her friend Taylor Swift. They were concerned that the press would learn of these private details, but could their concern about Ryan's sexual orientation have contributed to this?
To protect, as they term it, highly confidential information that could destroy the careers of the third-party people that are involved. Okay, so third party meaning they're not listed in this lawsuit as plaintiffs or defendants, but they're third parties and they're going to get deposed.
They applied for a protective order because they wanted to make some documents attorneys' eyes only, AEO, which would keep the public from seeing these possibly harmful communications. Can you imagine how disastrous some of these communications may be if they were to leak, considering how much media attention these individuals receive?
It just makes you ask what truth could be so poisonous to someone's career that if revealed, it would be over.
Instead of simply approving this request, the case's judge decided to investigate further and decided that only specific types of information would be protected, such as trade secrets, security measures, and extremely private information that was unrelated to the case. Of course, he also acknowledged the clear possibility that some information might fall between the cracks and wind up in the tabloids.
It would have to be that in some manner or another, that person is a fraud, right? In some manner or another, that person is a fraud. So whether it's how they're publicly presenting their sexuality, whether it's how they're publicly presenting their brand.
If Lively's or Taylor Swift's text conversations were suddenly made public, can you just picture the chaos? It would be like pouring petrol on a fire. The judge didn't want that to happen, but he also understood that this case was already becoming too nasty for him.
So Blake Lively's team was like, we want to be able to decide by ourselves as attorneys that this text message between Taylor and Blake Lively is AEO, which means no one else can see it but the attorneys.
Now, Baldwin's legal team was not happy with this ruling. They believed Lively's team was being a little too aggressive with their AO request, claiming that some information should be made public because it was pertinent to the case. In other words, their team was essentially saying, hey, if you have nothing to hide, let's not make this more complicated than it needs to be.